Ja, vielen Dank. Ich repräsentiere ja den französischen Health Data Hub und das europäische Projekt, insofern auch den Vortrag auf Englisch halten, bin aber sehr froh, trotzdem hier ein paar einleitende Worte auf Deutsch sagen zu können. Video kann ich leider nicht selbst aktivieren, da wird mir gesagt, dass das kann nur der Manager der Session. Aber dann werde ich einfach schon mal meine Slides teilen und hoffe, dass Sie zumindest sehen können. Und freue mich, wenn Sie mir ein Signal geben können, dass Sie das sehen können.
Jetzt können wir sehen, wunderbar, herzlichen Dank.
Okay, perfekt, dann wechsle ich jetzt auch über ins Englische.
And you will speak in English, it's no problem, okay?
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so yeah, I will start actually with this slide because I think the previous speaker has made it very clear already how the different pieces of the European health data space fit together, and that my presentation will only focus on the European health data space for secondary use, and especially on the cross-border infrastructure health data at EU, which is the cross-border infrastructure for secondary use. So the project that we are leading at the Health Data Hub, which is called Health Data at EU Pilot Project, which really intends to build the first better version of this European health data space for secondary use. So who's working with us on this topic? We have a European consortium of 17 partners representing 9 countries, which you can see at least partly on the map to the right. And we're very happy, of course, also to have a German actor in our consortium. So we have the Health Data Lab within the BfArM participating in the project. And so the 2 main objectives of our project are, 1, to build a network of data platforms on a European scale, and 2, to test this platform or network, which will propose a certain number of services by running concrete cross-border research use cases. And so who is part of this project? As mentioned, there's 70 partners, but it's different kind of partners. We have national partners, organizations which could be assimilated to the health data access bodies that were mentioned previously. And you can see that we also have our Finnish partners who were referred to from FinData within the project. Then we have European agencies. So we have the European Medicines Agency and the ECDC. So also representing those agencies and how they will fit into the European health data space. And we have European research infrastructures. So for instance, BBMRI or eBrains also being part, and they of course are also supposed to link up with the European health data space for secondary use. So it's a crucial part to have them inside this project. So moving on, so this is for us the most important slide. So we are really trying to build a first user journey for the European health data space for secondary use, which will cover the main steps of running a research project. So on the first piece of the user journey, the data discovery, together with our partners, we will develop a common European metadata standard. So it will be an extension of the DKIT AP standard to the health sector. So that will be one specific work within the project, and we will test whether we can go a step further and also try out how federated queries at network level could work. But that is a little less clear so far. So the metadata standards and the implementation in the different data platforms will be the first step there. Then, of course, the next step is to get access to data. So there we will work with the existing procedures to get data access, but we will try to see from different national procedures which steps are actually the same and which questions in application forms are the same to get to a single data application form. So of course, that won't be exactly the same for each country, but the idea is to, with the overlapping and non-overlapping fields, to create one dynamic version of this request form in order to have, for the data user, only one form in the end to fill out, and so to make it much easier to request the access rather than to go to 5 different places to ask for access. But then we will also cover the remaining pieces of the user journey between data preparation, use of data, and finalization. So for data preparation, we will work especially on interoperability standards in order to allow our use cases, so which I will talk about in a second, to use data consistently throughout several European countries. So to work, for instance, with similar data sets in a similar way, and be able to answer the research question of each use case by using these standards. If, of course, the part around citizens' information and GDPR rights is also of crucial importance. So we will assess during the project how we can, at network level, make sure to inform citizens. So maybe that will be done through an information portal, but maybe we will also find other ways where we can contribute to GDPR compliance and help the national actors to, through the European or through this European network to comply with some of the obligations. For instance, we could imagine, but this is of course not fixed, that through the European network you could also ask for your data not to be used for certain research projects. And of course, well, given the level of the high-level European network that will be in place, it will be a very good place to publish and to put forward results of the research projects. So again, linked up with the duty of transparency, but also, of course, with the intention for research to be seen and to be used. It will be very important to put forward these results. Also, I talked about a lot of different services and aspects that the user journey will cover, but all of this, of course, is not possible without having a common IT infrastructure. And so we have one dedicated working group around this infrastructure, which will connect the different data platforms at European level in a network that will allow information exchange. So that I have one more slide on this. So the idea is really to have a connection between the different nodes, and this of course resembles the framework shown in the earlier presentation. But just to say, in this network we will have different type of actors. We will have our national platforms, we will have the research infrastructures, and we will have the European agencies. And so then based on this network, which will be based on common European standards for information exchange, especially the e-delivery standard, the different nodes will be able to exchange information. So the first pieces of information that should be exchanged are, of course, the metadata that we referred to earlier and the common access forms. So if, for instance, through a central search or through a central request portal, a user requests access to a number of different nodes, then this request needs to be dispatched to the different nodes. So the access request will need to be sent to these other nodes. So those are the kinds of challenges that we face. Of course, the network, we could also check whether it is sensible to use it for exchanging health data, but that is not the primary aim of the project. We will first show the value add of exchanging information like metadata and access forms. If in the end there's appetite for also, at least for some actors, to exchange other type of information that could potentially be done, would need some, of course, additional technical layers and security layers. But within our project, which is quite short time frame, we will focus on these services first. So then, just very quickly again, because I think I have very limited time, just to say that, of course, all of this doesn't make sense if we can't support concrete projects. And so we have 5 research use cases that will be done, mobilizing data from several European countries. And that cover a bit of different disease areas, but also different use case types. So we have the first use case, which will be a test for the ECDC to see how they can use the European health data space for their surveillance task within Europe. And we have the European Medicines Agency working on a COVID-19 project somehow related to the pharmacovigilance and so to some of the regulatory tasks of the European Medicines Agency. But then we also have a number of really research use cases, both on COVID-19, on cancer, and also one project really focusing on how to mobilize AI within the European health data space. And so you can see the number of countries every time involved in each of the use cases. So that is, of course, the major challenge, to have all of these teams working together and trying out and using some of the services we implement at the network level. So I think I will just finish by saying that we have only 24 months to get through all of this. So we have a quite ambitious time frame. We only kicked off a few weeks ago and with a kickoff meeting in Paris. But yeah, work is ongoing now, and we have a full schedule for the next 2 years. And also for external people, there will be multiple opportunities to engage with the project. And so we hope to be in contact with many of you. So we will actually publish our call for external advisory boards in the next few weeks. So if you're interested in joining that, please follow us and our activities. And then there will be multiple other opportunities for stakeholders to engage. So we will hold stakeholder meetings and roundtable discussions. We will also interact with the community of health data access bodies, which will be in place as they're working together on the direct grants for setting up services by health data access bodies. And as my presentation today, we will join multiple presentations, roundtable discussions, forums, etc., fora, and in order to be able to get immediate feedback and also to present what we are doing. So that is key, as also highlighted just before, in order to make sure we don't build something in vacuum, and to make sure our services will be used and will be useful for all the actors involved. So I will stop there. In case you have any questions, I have some backup material in case, and yeah, you can see on the right hand side here the different contact details for the pilot project, which will be which you can follow, for instance, if you want to get involved with the external advisory board call. So thank you very much, and back to you.
Yes, thank you, Mario, for this information. Only one question from my side. What about Great Britain? Is Great Britain in or out also in this area?
So of course they're not part of the EU for Health program for now, through which this project is funded. But of course, still there are contacts. I think I didn't refer to it, but we have one sister project maybe that's based on which we built some of the work in the European health data within this health data EU pilot project, which is the TEDAS joint action, where many European countries are involved, and there we also have UK organizations. So in some of the discussions, they were part, and then I mean this will now build on a European framework for governance that the European health data space will be. But the idea is, of course, that many of these aspects will also be interoperable on a more global level, so that researchers for instance, from the UK can access maybe data from through this framework if they follow the rules and the institutional arrangements that the European Union fixes. So I think it's we, as for GDPR, we will put forward and on the European level a framework, and everyone who is ready to stick with that framework can interact with that framework. But that's the advantage of doing it at the European level, is that it's of a size that a lot of external actors will look to the framework and maybe also stick to some of the rules or some of the the elements of the framework that we put forward. So for instance, if we work on standards, of course, if on the European level, we will have quite a lot more impact than if it was only at a national level.